Okay. I had hoped that we could approve the minutes, but then I realized it's only Bob and I who were at the last meeting. And even though it was, and I'm not sure whether because it was just administrative and Roger already wrote the minutes and I let him know that I had made a change, if we think we could approve those or if we want to just hold off. I'm honestly not sure. We obviously don't have a majority to approve them, but we've got the writer who knows about one change and the two of us, Bob and me, who were there.
But wasn't Bob there?
He was, but
Was.
Roger isn't here to.
Oh, I meant, wasn't Roger there?
He was, but he wrote the minutes, but he's not here to vote to approve them. I honestly don't know. I mean, it's not like we made a decision. We just approved minutes and had Alex.
Yeah, I said that doesn't matter. We
It's
can
okay.
wait.
So hang
Right?
on, let me just share. If we have to go back, we will. Let me just share the screen to the minutes. I made the change.
Yeah.
And does anyone have any other changes?
No, I mean, the short and sweet is always really good.
Yeah, and I'm going to do the minutes tonight, so which will be really short and sweet because I don't think it's going to be anybody but us. So is everybody okay with the change?
But wait, but at this meeting, Kristen was there.
I wasn't there. I don't know why they said I was there.
Oh my goodness,
Okay.
Kristen, I will absolutely change. Yeah, because that's why I remembered that Kristen wasn't there.
Okay.
Right.
So, okay, let me change that.
Yes, I was at a baby shower for my son, and I
Oh,
completely expected to be there, but because the baby shower wasn't until the next day, but then it turned out to be a big family dinner.
Oh, well, that's more important.
And I was gonna, and when I found out about the dinner, I was gonna call, and then I didn't even think about it again until like 9 o'clock at night, and I was like, oh my God.
No,
you mean
no
the
worries.
ZBA isn't the first thing on your mind? At the absolute top?
Well, and I think it was an odd day too, so it wasn't, usually, was it an odd day?
No,
April 3rd?
it
No.
was our first Thursday, but a baby shower trumps everything. Sorry for the verb.
Yes.
So are we okay with these minutes with this change?
Yes.
So obviously Valerie did not come in to be sworn in, and we're back to square one. Okay, I will save these. I will get rid of them. I will send them on to the town. Oh, could somebody make a motion to approve these minutes?
I so move.
I will second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes are approved, saved. Okay, so I did want to just give some context about these bylaws, just so you know. No, I think the most important thing is that for us to have read them, to think about them, and then when we have that joint meeting, because just so you all know, several months ago, a committee was convened to write this bylaw, a general bylaw, which has nothing to do with us, and then the standalone one for the ZBA. From the select board was Joyce. From a citizen was Judy Markland, who's put a ton of time into this. The planning board was represented by Brandt. My husband George was from the Conservation Commission. Doug Coldwell was from the Ag Commission. Paul Newland from the Energy Commission, and Mike Archibald from the Board of Health. So those were the people who worked on this for months. And our newly leaving community development officer, Erica, was also kind of, and oh, Kirsten, you may not know that. Erica has come and now she is going. So anyway, the context for this, and so Brandt worked on this bylaw as a member of this commission, and then the planning board is now going to take it up to see if it can be recommended to town meeting. And Brandt felt it was very important for us to be involved because whether or not the select board approves this licensing committee, which you can see from Brandt's memo he's concerned about, we are going to need this bylaw. This battery storage, these entities are coming. It's going to be like cell phone towers were 20 years ago. We're going to need this bylaw. As it stands now, because I had an inside track with George being a member of this, and Judy Markland also was sending me drafts along the way. I gather that we are somewhat vulnerable before a bylaw goes in, that an entity wishing to build one of these has a whole lot more leeway to cite it. And I did see a copy of town council, various communiques with town council, who said there's a lot of unsettled case law on this at this point. And the AG is really looking over a lot of these. Some towns have created bylaws for this that the AG is just shot down, because it's a balance of the state's commitment to renewable energy and conservation, forest land, farmland, water protection. So the bylaw's coming, whether or not there's this licensing board. And what I saw when I read Brent's memo, and I certainly understand what he's saying, I'm just talking for myself now, is that he's concerned that given how hard it is to find people to volunteer in town, that there wouldn't be enough people to be on this. And so and he hasn't proposed an alternative. And the only alternative that I can surmise from reading the bylaw is that site plan review would fall to the planning board and special permit would fall to us. Now, obviously, I would have no knowledge of how to have an expert. So, and unless I'm missing a special skill in other members of our board, I don't think any of us have that at this point. So my thought that I would bring to our joint meeting is that we need to have a bylaw, and we need to have, perhaps at the town administrator level, identified experts that we could have the applicant hire, who would essentially report to us in terms of the decommissioning aspects, the siting aspects, fire protection for these. This is the big fear with these runaway fires. I mean, I don't know if folks saw that story in California with one of these these storage units caught on fire, and they had to let it burn for 5 days.
Wow.
And because it,
Yeah.
and there's so go ahead, Bob.
Well, I read an article, I think it was South Korea, and there was a fire in a large complex of batteries that lasted for 2 months.
Yes, I saw that as well. So, and this committee, especially, like, Judy put a ton of work into this, and I know I had circulated an earlier draft with folks to you all, and JP has weighed in on this. So in terms of fire, I mean, if something like this comes to town, it likely will. We would have, it would take time, because we would be getting input from not only our expert, but also emergency planning and the fire protection and all of that.
Now, we're talking about large capacity. We're not talking, I know they mention in there like for single family houses, batteries.
No, it's
But this is this whole thing is really for just the large storage.
yes.
So that instead of transporting over the wires, they would keep the energy that's being produced in the local community in a huge battery area.
In a facility, yes.
In a facility. And how big will the facility be?
That's in the bylaw, in terms of there are various, like, there are 2 tiers of, I can grab that too.
See, I thought the tiers were like home use.
No, I think home use isn't even covered in this, I believe. Let me just grab it.
It has to do tier 1 and tier 2. It says the district in which each is allowed.
Right.
Whether it's AR1, AR1 is not allowed. Tier 1 systems are, oh, yeah. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
So I did ask about that. It's not people, like, for instance, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, because I think Brant let everyone know, I believe he has a personal home battery storage.
Right.
I know that my neighbors on this common driveway, one of them has such a thing. That doesn't require anything from us. This is a commercial entity. And the other thing that I noticed in the bylaw is that this bylaw is applying only to these standalones, not ones that are part of solar, but
Oh,
because in our bylaw already, there is a provision if there's surplus battery storage for the solar as it is. So we're really just looking at this kind of a system. And it looks as though, now you can see, obviously they're still drafting it, but we've got the tier 1 and tier 2 is actually the size of it. So tier 1, an aggregate energy capacity greater than 70 and not less than 600. And then tier 2, greater than 600, may not exceed 4 acres. So I think that's why tier 2 is not allowed, or is only allowed in commercial industrial, because it's huge. And it's so my questions are going to be,
Well, can I,
yeah,
what if the town doesn't have that much commercial industrial space?
then it can't be there.
then it can't be there. But first of all, but right now we've got nothing. Right now we have nothing. This is the hope. I know that the hope of the folks who drafted this is that this will pass muster with the Attorney General. So I think that because I know that the commission looked at a number of bylaws that had been created and been sent up the chain, and some were accepted and some were not. Some had to have revision. So my guess, and this I honestly don't know, is that they've created enough opportunities for it so that something as big as a tier 2, there's a legitimate reason why that wouldn't be in somebody's residential area.
Right.
It's just so big. And so, again, this is what is proposed. This is what the planning board and us will discuss to see what they think of it. It hasn't gone to town meeting yet. I think my sense is that there's some urgency to get a bylaw because
Right.
is coming. But essentially it's the planning board that's going to make the recommendation. But as the board who will be giving the special permit, this is going to be our chance. And I mean, in some ways, this was almost easy for me because I would be reliant on an expert to guide me through the steps. I think we all would. I think we should all think of it as like, what if each one of us was chairing this meeting? What would we need? And I would need I would need so much expertise.
100% agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're
I
not
don't
experts.
know, indeed.
No. And I think that now at first when I read Brant's memo, and perhaps I did misread it, I don't know. I thought he was voting against the whole bylaw, but I believe he's voting against the commission. Is that your sense of it as well?
Yeah, it seemed to me that because he flat out says he would never be on that commission
Right,
because he worries about the liability
right.
issues involved in that decision-making process.
Well, and I can absolutely see that argument, and especially if there was some catastrophic fire. And I think that's why if it falls to us and the planning board, well, they'd be doing site plan, we'd be special permitting it, and we know how involved that would be. I mean, the last time that we were all working on something like this that took forever and a day to get through, it was the Quant, and I think we did a great due diligence, all of us. And so this, I think, given its the potential for catastrophe would take, and also the potential for, for renewable energy. It would take a fair bit of due diligence, which I'm sure we'd all be capable of doing. It's laid out very clearly in terms of what we need to go through, but we would need this entity, this expert entity every step of the way, and the petitioner would need to know they'd be paying for that. And the only other question that I had is that
Wait.
oh, I'm sorry, Kristen, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, but there's nothing wrong with it as it's written right now,
Right.
other than he objects to the licensing board, correct?
That's correct. And
So if getting it passed is the thing, we can pass it and worry, and then they can worry about the licensing board, right?
I don't know, because I think if it's passed and it contains a provision for a licensing board, they would be the sort of the oversight. And then the role of the ZBA would be considerably less than. We'd be just saying, okay, does this meet the criteria laid out in this bylaw? We approve it as to use, but a condition would be with oversight to be provided by the licensing board on the schedule laid out in this bylaw. I think that schedule would be defaulting to us. And that would be, and that's where we would have to say, okay, this is going to be inspected every year. This is going to have fire testing every 6 months. Any cost is going to be will be an ongoing one to the petitioner. That's my sense of it now. Obviously, I want to see what the planning, I have not spent as much time with this as, Brant will have spent a lot of time with this because he was a member of the commission as well as his role in the planning board. But I think that if they're going to take out the licensing board, that's going to have to be in the new bylaw. That would be my guess at this point. I don't think it could be passed with that board.
But if they
Also,
take, if
go
they
ahead.
take out, if they take out the licensing commission, that means it's us.
That's correct.
Right.
That we would have to follow, we would have to use the schedule that's in that and say, this is, if, let's say we grant a permit, we would have to say, this is the schedule that you are mandated to follow. And we'll be setting up this expert entity to monitor that, and we'll get reports on that. Or the reports could go to the select board. Maybe that's the thing to discuss with the planning board. To what degree are we taking over that role? And I think that's a question that I have. Now, it's possible that, this will go to town. I mean, it's possible that Brant may have those concerns, but that they're perhaps not shared by other voters and by the select board.
And he certainly has a lot of concerns, but he also doesn't talk about what the alternative is.
That's right.
Right.
Absent this, he talks about bureaucracy and all. Okay, fine. Well, okay, what next? Instead of this, what? I don't know.
I think that's the question we want to take to the planning board, because if it is going to be, and to what extent is that worry shared? Because it may not be. And but I think the important thing that I guess I was not as, that has become very clear to me is that such an entity will very likely come to town, that we're probably already on the radar because of our solar installations. And so we just want to, hear what they have to say. And, I don't know if you all noticed, but I noticed that there's quite a decommissioning plan in tier 2, but there's no mention of the decommissioning for a tier 1 facility. Now, I did ask my husband about that, and he said that, and this, again, that's just as a member of the commission, not speaking for, said that the procedures for decommissioning those are fairly straightforward. But it's something as a ZBA person, I still would like to see that addressed a little bit, so we have some guidance to go with. on that.
That just makes sense.
Yeah, I just think that struck me as something of an omission in the bylaw. But those are my notes. So my suggestion is that, and I'll send an email to Roger about this. Again, we're not hearing from Fred. I don't know what's up with Fred, but I'll CC Fred on that. Is that, we read the proposed standalone zoning bylaw. That's what we take our questions into and for me, in conjunction with Brant's memo. Like, what is the alternative? And if it's us, how do we structure this? Because I do think, like, I wouldn't even know how to find an expert to review this. I need another level of assistance to find an expert.
And Brand suggests that the company that was proposing this could reject our selection of
Well,
expert.
that's why I think it would be important for this to be enshrined at the town administrator level. Like, this is our bank of experts. This is who we use. And I guess they could reject it, but we've never had anything like that happen before.
No, I know, but
I mean,
this is a brave new world.
yes, yes. But yeah, I think that, the place that I agree with Brant is that we don't have on our board now, nor does the planning board, anyone who could independently say, yes, this is the entity we need. These are the people who know what they're doing with this. So we need to have some guidance with that. I'd like to see a little more detail on decommissioning in tier 1. But that's what I'm thinking at this time.
Okay.
So, as I say, my suggestion is that we think about these things, hear what they have to say, put our own concerns in. The date, hang on for 1 second while I double check, because I know you've got a slew of emails, Bob.
Oh, May 29th, 5:30 p.m.
Oh, yes, that's the date he's
Okay.
looking for.
Um, right now it looks possible for me
Okay,
because
we can
I
just
have
put it as a possible, because he does
Okay.
say in his email that, if we don't have a full board, it just doesn't have to be advertised or whatever
Well, if we have 3, then it has to be advertised because that's a
right,
quorum. Yeah.
right, right. So that's all I have. Does anyone have anything else that they wanted to talk
No,
about?
no,
Okay.
just
No.
crazy how hard it is to find somebody to do the work these days, huh?
Well, we have a possible lead, which I did talk to Brant about, and that is our town librarian, Cindy Steiner. As long as it's just mailing the abutters notice, advertising the hearing in the Greenfield Recorder, and making sure that those things are paid for. Brant says he could live with that as well, although he wishes he could have somebody to take minutes. But I know Cindy does not want to come to any more night meetings or take minutes. I haven't raised it with Pete yet. It's not a definite from Cindy, but it might help us out.
Yeah, it's just that's part of the issue is that it's really just a little part-time job and
Right. And
people have to,
we can't guarantee a minimum.
right.
And the way it's being advertised, I was saying to Bob yesterday at a library meeting, that it's being put out on Indeed. So we are getting applicants from all over the place using an algorithm that I'm sure is starring on remote. And like, we were getting actors in New York who wanted to do it. And it's just, and I don't blame them. You can't be a dead body on Law and Order every week. So it has to,
That's a
but
good one.
we'll keep. I have a feeling that, given that Pete, I'm sure, will be very busy with a search for a new community development officer, I'll write to him and ask him if that's a possibility. Okay, and nothing else, anybody? Let me stop the share. How about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody.
Good night, everyone.